Greetings, welcome in. It's Bettor's Last Stand, show number 61, coming to you from the Pine Room Studio down here in downtown Wheeling on a lovely Wednesday afternoon. It's unseasonably mild, I guess. Not hot, but a very pleasant fall day outside as the clocks have been turned back and we're getting dark. By the time I get out of here, it'll be dark, which is very, very good for me. I enjoy that quite a bit. I hope everybody had a great weekend, and we're going to try to give you some winners again this week. We had a strong week across the board as, Chris wasn't with us last week. He's not with us here. I'm joined by Watchdog once again. Coach out on the paint job, taking care of some last-second paint work before the fall comes and turns into winter. Chris has a big trade show over at Wheeling Island Casino, so he's tied up with that today for his company. So I'm solo. Sam will join me later in the show to put a cap on the racing season from NASCAR's standpoint and talk a little bit about the F1 race in Las Vegas coming up in a couple of weeks and a little bit of other tidbits, I'm sure, across the board from whether it's baseball, hockey, football, basketball. Sam's dialed into everything, so we'll get his analysis and input on that as we usually do. But anyway, thanks for joining us here on Bettor's Last Stand. We were up 18 units, 18.95, so almost 19 units last week. That includes, though, I have to be fully transparent here. That includes the Ryan Blaney 12-1 title ticket that we gave out here on the show a couple of weeks ago, back when they cut it down to 4, and Blaney was a really good discount at 12-1. I didn't understand that. Thought it made a lot of sense to play. I had a ticket on Truex and Blaney heading into the final cut-down race to the 4, and then I doubled up on the Blaney ticket once Truex was out. So it was very profitable as Ryan Blaney gets the job done, finishes second out at Phoenix and behind Ross Chastain. It didn't matter. He beat out William Byron and Kyle Larson, and Chris Bell had a bad day, so he was kind of out of it. But really good finish, and really happy for Ryan Blaney, and we'll talk more about that when we have Sam joining us here in the segment number 3. Coach had one of his better weeks in college football, 7-2 on the week in college, 3-2 in the pros, so he was up about 6 units, about a little over 5.5 units. His best bets went 1-1 on the week. Chris, 1-0 in college football, 1-1 in the NFL. He was up almost 1 full unit. You lose the juice there, so even if you go 2-1, you're still not quite up an entire unit, but still decent week. Chris only gave out 2 plays because he wasn't on the show last week. He went 2-0 with his best bets, though, so good week for him. I was 4-5 in college football, 5-3 in the pros, plus almost 11 units on the week with the Ryan Blaney 12-1 ticket cashing in. My best bets were 2-0 last week. Best bets for me overall right now, since we've been doing the best bets, I'm 10-4, so I don't know how that's happening, but we'll take it. So 10-4 for me, 5-7 for Coach Chris, coming in at 7-4-1. Couple reminders, we have our Football Friday show, our last one on location, we think, this week. It'll be, when you hear this, today, Friday, and we'll be out at Gumby's in Elm Grove for the final time, it looks like, unless we get some unseasonably warm weather, which we have had, so possibly sneak out another week, but this right now is probably going to be our last week, and it's also our week number 12 of the Duggars Saucy Spread Challenge. So join us on our Football Friday show, live on the Watchdog, 12-3, out at Gumby's. We're going to be talking some school lunches. We're going to be going through the Ohio and West Virginia playoff cards and the Duggar Saucy Spread Challenge week number 12 as we start to wind down. We got 2 more weeks of that left. So this week and next week, and the Duggar Saucy Spreads will be in the book. Kayleen continues to lead. She's up by 2 games over Jerry. So 2 of the top predicted outcome winners, teams, the people who we thought were going to be in contention and definitely are with Kayleen and Jerry. So a exciting couple of weeks to come, and we'll see how it all shakes out. Champions League soccer going on right now, so hopefully people are enjoying that. This is a good time of the season. You got a little bit of everything happening. Baseball in the books. Wrapped it up last week. World Series. Rangers go undefeated on the road, which is quite impressive, and they'll probably be a contender for the next few years. They got a good young nucleus, good veterans, and if they get their couple of pitchers healthy, they'll probably be, one of the favorites in the American League again next year. So hats off to the Rangers, hats off to the Diamondbacks. Had a good season, made it a lot further than everybody else expected, and we'll expect to see bigger things from them as well as they add pieces to look to contend in the very difficult National League West with the Padres wanting to spend money, the Giants kind of going through a little mini overhaul here as they get a new manager, and then the Dodgers, of course, will be back and better than ever. I'm sure as they'll spend in the offseason. They got to upgrade their pitching staff as well. But we put a lid on baseball until probably sometime in February or March when we start to discuss spring training and some of the things going on here. Of course, we'll keep you apprised of any major signings or anything early that we really like that would be something that you could jump on from a team standpoint as far as future bets go. So we'll look into those as they pop up. College basketball got underway Monday night, a gigantic card. There was almost 150 games, and it was hard to even keep track of everything that was happening right there. So that's going to be what your Saturdays are going to look like here for the next few months is you'll see just tons and tons of college basketball games. And do yourself a favor, if you're out betting in person and you're betting with a teller, please use the bet numbers because it gets so tricky when you have somebody coming up to you and saying, give me Miami of Ohio, or even worse, give me Miami. Well, you got the Miami Hurricanes. You got the Miami Hurricanes basketball team. You got the Miami Redhawks football team, the Miami Redhawks basketball team. You got the Miami Heat. You got the Miami Dolphins. You have so many Miamis out there, and it's very difficult, and taking it from someone who has to train people to work in this industry, it can be very confusing for our ticket writers when you come up to them and say that. They want to get your ticket right. So anyway, pass the word to your friends. I'm sure most of the people that watch this already know that. But bet numbers are such an important thing, and I know that a lot of books don't emphasize them or even have enough training or knowledge to be able to emphasize them, but that's the way you need to do it. Las Vegas, Atlantic City, the places that are in the know, you're going to want to bet with the bet numbers. So you want to be able to come in there and say, give me the Miami Redhawks, or give me 112, the Miami Redhawks. Like, that is so much easier for the writer. They can punch the number in and then confirm the bet with you that was the team that you wanted. But if you just give them Miami, you got 6 different outcomes you could get, and that's a low side of it. If you had MLS going and other things going, you could have even more than that. So do yourself a favor and get your tickets right. Help your writer out. Use your bet number. That can't be emphasized enough. But anyway, college basketball underway. Already got the parity showing its face already. Again, Michigan State, Texas Tech, DePaul, among those that have gone down in the last couple of nights. You had the Colorado women upset LSU. Colorado women are pretty good, though, so keep an eye on them as we'll talk about them, I'm sure, down the stretch as we head into the NCAA tournament. We won't talk a ton about women's basketball on here from a regular season standpoint, here and there, some of the bigger games, but you don't see a lot of books even take action on those. So, but still, a growing product, and you'll definitely see that start to grow. I'm hopeful. So I even at one point I'm going to start to do maybe regular season Mountain East games, but got to show the interest around here. Hopefully their interest will still be there for the men's side of things. We had a lot of interest in Mountain East football, so we'll expect to have some Mountain East basketball interest as well. But college basketball is upon us. I hate to make a judgment so early. Last year we kind of waited until you got a few weeks under your belt when you kind of get into conference play. But there are a few teams, though, that I wanted to at least talk about briefly and just keep them on your radar. First, I'll just kind of go in alphabetical order here. Arkansas, the SEC. Eric Musselman got another solid team back. Lost some guys in the NBA draft last year, but he reloaded. He's been really good at bringing transfers into the programs that he's been at, whether it was Nevada and now at Arkansas. Putting pieces together, getting them better by the end of the season. They're 25-1 to win the championship. I'm not sure they can do that. We'll have to see how some of their players mesh together. But I thought a plus 7-1, 8-1, somewhere around that to win the SEC, I think is worth a shot. Got a lot of changing parts in the SEC. So even though Kentucky will always be good, you still have to account for the newness there. So I think Arkansas makes a lot of sense. So that'll be a team that I'll have my eye on. Colorado out of the Pac-12. I think they're pretty good. The Pac-12 is a little bit down in basketball. I think UCLA obviously lost a lot of veteran guys. USC is pretty good. Oregon probably will be amongst one of the top teams out there. But I don't really know where it's going to end up. Who's going to end up being the best team in the Pac-12. I'm really not certain yet. So Colorado's a team I'm going to have my eye on. Maybe get them at a decent price, around 7-1 to win the Pac-12. Creighton, team that I hadn't been very high on Creighton until last year. They impressed me. I watched a good bit of Big East basketball, and they look like they are starting to really come together as a team. I think that they're like 1 or 2 parts away from really being good, and I think maybe that happened over the offseason. They got some transfers in. They have some good players already, good frontline players, guys that can shoot the ball. They're around 3-1 to win the Big East. One of the favorites, probably favored in some books. So take a look at them. I don't like betting favorites very often, but the Big East is a really good conference, so you could get value. So say Creighton starts out, has a couple tough games, drops a few, and then they go to 6-1 or something. You get a really good value if they were able to balloon up. That was the word I was looking for. Balloon to like 6-7-1 after a couple of losses in that league. It's a really tough league, so keep an eye out for them. And be sure when you're betting these, you make sure that you either are your book is distinguishing between regular season or the tournament counting as well. So you want to be able to know that in your house rules. Most of the time, I would say it's going to be your tournament champion unless otherwise noted where it says regular season. So keep an eye out for that. Next team, Florida Atlantic. We were really high on them last year. Gave them out pretty early on, so I feel pretty good about that. Man, if them or Miami could have just made it to the finals last year, both to the Final Four, and I had a ticket on both of them to make the final and both of them to play each other, it would have been a monstrous, one of the biggest ones that I've ever cashed, and just didn't turn out, but it still was a good run for them. Probably going to be a little bit overvalued now. I would say you're going to see people bet them too much, and their prices are going to go down. They got all 5 starters back, Florida Atlantic does. So, tread lightly with them. They're going to be a good team. But watch their numbers, though. They're going to get bet more than normal because people think they're really good. So I think you can find some value playing against them in their conference play when you identify some of the better teams in the AAC. So keep an eye on that. Again, I'm not down on them. They're really good. But just their numbers, the bookmakers' numbers are going to get bet up because people remember how hot they were last year when they hear they have all 5 starters back. They're going to pound them at the window, and that's going to lead to you getting 3 or 4 extra points for the other team that they're playing in most cases because they'll be favored in almost every one of their games, especially their conference matchups. So keep an eye on that one. Miami also returns 3 starters, I guess. Yeah, 3 starters, you would say, but about 5 or 6 guys that played good minutes for them last year. They'll be pretty good. Probably not as good as last year. Got to replace Jordan Miller. That's going to be a lot. Isaiah Wong's going to be a lot. But Wooga Poplar really took off in the tournament last year. And Norshad Omier is one of the best and most underrated big men ever. I look for him to have a monster season and just keep an eye on him in player props. The rebounds over. He's one of the most crafty rebounders you ever see for a guy that's not really that big. And he just has an entirely, just a better motor than most players he's going to play against. So anyway, moving along. Grand Canyon out of the WAC. I didn't find a number on them yet to win the WAC. I haven't looked for some of those small conferences, but their team that's up and coming. I think they could be pretty dangerous. So keep an eye on Grand Canyon. Houston joins the Big 12 this year. Obviously, we talked about it in football, but man, they got a really nice team basketball-wise. And other than Kansas, those two are going to have some colossal battles there in the Big 12. So it really makes the Big 12 a more viable conference. You already got Kansas and Texas and so on. And now you get Houston. So keep it on Houston, very high on them. Marquette, the other team out of the Big East that I like, they got upset early in the tournament last year, but they were a little bit young, I felt like. I think they're going to have some experience now, and I think that they'll really improve this year. And they were real good last year, so they don't have to prove a whole lot. They just need that, the battle-tested, being able to win those big games. Maryland, another team that got some, some harsh realities on the road in the Big Ten. I think they only won 1 or 2 games on the road. So, really good team at home. But I think I look for Maryland to make the step up to, these guys are a little bit older and a little bit more experienced now. Maryland, a very dangerous team. They have a really good nucleus of players back, and they can, talent-wise, they're up there with anybody in the Big Ten. So keep an eye on Maryland. New Mexico, I think, is a pretty good Mountain West team. Keep an eye on them. Huge number to make the Final Four or to obviously win the championship. I don't think they can do that, but I think there's no reason why they can't make the Elite Eight and win that conference. So keep an eye on New Mexico. Ole Miss out of the SEC. I like Arkansas the best, but I like Ole Miss as well. They got Chris Beard now. Solid coach. This guy was on top of the world before he had his domestic violence issue at Texas. Got fired from there. We saw what he did with Texas Tech a few years ago. Took them all the way to the finals. This guy can really coach, and if he gets the blend of players, which it looks like they got some good guys, they could be a really dangerous team, and they're 25-1 to win the SEC. And SEC is not really it's a solid league, but there's not a whole lot of great teams, and it's whoever can mesh together the best because you got a lot of good coaches and a lot of good talent in that conference. St. John's I'm down on them a little bit because you're going to get overbet with Patino factor, so be aware of that too. Just like Florida Atlantic, can't play St. John's. You can't unless they're a dog maybe, but even then you're not getting as many points as you probably should. But they're going to be laying numbers this year, and I watched a little bit of their game the other night, and they're just okay. So he's got a lot of work to do. I'm sure he will get them good. I don't doubt that, but they're going to get overbet early, so stay away from St. John's would be my recommendation. Going to the West Coast Conference where Gonzaga normally dominates, St. Mary's is the team to look for there. Gonzaga might not be quite as good as normal, but them and St. Mary's duke it out every year. I lean St. Mary's just a little bit, but it should be a dead even, I guess, battle between those two teams. It seems to always come down to them. TCU is a team that I'd be a little bit concerned about. They had a lot of issues with their roster coming into the season, so keep an eye on them. Think they had some issues. Kansas State, another one. A little bit of roster issues, some turnovers, some guys that I don't know if they had any eligibles, but I was reading a little bit about some of the issues that they have and not having a full team. So keep an eye on those two teams and maybe be down a little bit. UCLA, as I mentioned, lost a lot of experienced players. I don't expect them to be nearly as good, especially offensively. So keep an eye on them. Northern Iowa and the Missouri Valley, I thought was worth a look. Keep an eye on them to maybe make a run in their league. The Metro Atlantic League, which I really liked a lot. I thought Marist and Canisius both should have improved seasons. I'm not saying they can win it, but they should improve. Loyola Chicago has a big test tonight. They play Florida Atlantic. We'll see what they're made of. I think they'll be better. They returned 5 starters, and they got a couple of other guys transferring in. They had a abnormally bad year for them last year, in a new league. So I think they'll get a little bit better. St. Bonaventure and St. Joe's both seem to have experienced players coming back and a couple of good transfers. In the Northeast Conference, I thought Long Island was interesting. Rod Strickland coaches them, and I believe he might have 2 of his sons play for them. I know at least one, I believe, does. But Rod Strickland was with Kentucky for a long time, did a really good job as an assistant coach there. I think he'll do a good job here, and I think he'll get them to be a serious contender in the Northeastern Conference. So take a look at them. Columbia and the Ivy League I thought was going to be better than they were last year. They got some players back and a couple of acquisitions try to boost them. I think they were picked last, but I think they're going to be better than that. So those are a couple teams that I'll keep an eye on college basketball-wise, but we'll talk more about those as we press on towards conference play, and then we'll kind of have a little bit of an idea of what the hell's happening. And, man, it's tough. You get these transfer portals, they really, really stretch you out. You got to really dig deep to find information, and there's lots of stuff to uncover because all these teams are contenders now that you really wouldn't have expected to be contenders. All right, moving on. College football. No Chris, no coach again here, but I got one play Friday night. I kind of like SMU against the North Texas Mean Green, minus the 17, but then let's go right into Alabama, the noon kick on Saturday's action. Alabama at Kentucky. Alabama minus 10.5, total 48. Kentucky just doesn't beat good teams. I think Stoops has like 2 wins against teams that ends up having winning records at the end of the year in his tenure. And that's really horrible, to be honest. As much as I always want to try to back Kentucky, I can't. Alabama, to me, is playing really well. I loved them last week. I didn't give them as my best bet. I gave out Louisville, but that was going to be my second best bet. And anyway, with cash, they really weren't in any, I know they'll say LSU's quarterback got hurt, but Alabama wasn't losing that game. They were just much the better team. They could get the stops when they needed to, and I think they'll get stops here. Now, the only problem I'm a little bit concerned with is, this is one of those you're kind of in a spot where you're coming off a high and you're coming back down to play a lesser opponent here, so it could be a bad spot for them. But if I can get 10 or less, I'll take the Crimson Tide. I think they're just vastly superior, and I think they know that they got to win out to make the playoff, and I think they're capable of it. I know a lot of people were down on them, but I think Milroe's getting it together at the quarterback spot, and I think their offense is clicking, and their defense is very opportunistic. They're not necessarily the best or most stout Alabama defense ever, but they can make big plays, and that's all you need is a couple of stops in these games. And if you have an offense that can score points, it's going to put you at an advantage. Michigan at Penn State, the next game of the day, probably the biggest game of the week. Michigan minus 4.5 on the road, total 46. Sharp money on Penn State here, which is interesting. I just don't know how you trust James Franklin in a big game. Michigan hasn't been tested, but I think they're very, very tough, and I know they got a lot going on with their program, but I expect Harbaugh's guys to come out and say, you know what, that got nothing to do with us. It's got something to do with maybe our coach and some staffer who is cheating or whatever you want to say, but it looks like a bunch of other schools are doing the same thing. Surprise. Doesn't make it right. But anyway, I'll be on Michigan here. I just don't see – I hope the number keeps coming down. I just can't see Franklin winning a big game. He was completely unprepared to play Ohio State. I know this is at home, but it's a noon kick, and I think that favors Michigan as well. And I like the Wolverines here. I think they roll, and I don't think they have a test until they get to Ohio State. Virginia Tech at Boston College, another noon kick. It'll be the Hokies minus 1.5, total 49.5. BC open 2.5. You're now bet over to Virginia Tech being favored. Looks like Boston College has a couple of injuries that are significant there. Don't really have a play there, so I'll be sitting that one out for the time being. Moving on in the ACC, Georgia Tech at Clemson. Georgia Tech off a nice victory. Clemson off a nice victory. Clemson minus 14 here, total 55. I don't love Clemson here. I don't love anything about them. Dabo thinks they're back, but they just beat a very, very, very mediocre Notre Dame team, in my opinion. And that is also why I don't think Ohio State has the best win of the season, as some people are saying, over Notre Dame. I just don't think that win was even big. I don't think the Penn State victory really means a whole lot to me. Washington is the team that has the best win of the season. They beat Oregon, and Oregon probably coulda, shoulda, woulda won that game without some mistakes by head coach Dan Lanning, especially at the end of the first half. But I think Oregon and Washington may be the two best teams right now in the country. But I still have to see what Michigan does, because I still think they're very good. And I wouldn't sleep on Georgia yet either. They're starting to get their quarterback in line. Carson Beck's playing pretty well, so I think maybe they're just waiting in the weeds, and they're going to turn it on when they need to. They turned it on when they needed to last week against Missouri when they were struggling. But anyway, back to Clemson. Don't love them. Can't lay 14 with them. I'll be passing Texas Tech at Kansas State. Also noon kick. No, Kansas, sorry. Kansas Jayhawks hosting Texas Tech. Kansas minus 4. Total 61. Kansas 5-0 ATS at home this season, and I'll be playing them here. This may be my best bet. I haven't quite decided yet, but by the end of the segment I will. If I am going to play them as my best bet or not, but I think that I really like them here in the spot. Texas Tech is not. They've underwhelmed me all season. Kansas is good. They're getting some swag back. They had a nice win last week against Iowa State in a spot that I didn't like them. But, that was a bad spot for them coming off of a nice win, and you figure they have a little bit of a letdown, but they didn't. So let's hope they don't have a letdown here, but I'll be on the Jayhawks minus the 4. Indiana and Illinois, another great Big Ten matchup here. Illinois minus 6.5, total 43.5. Had Indiana last week to get the outright win against Wisconsin. This one will be a little bit trickier. I think Illinois is playing a tad bit better, but I don't want to lay 6.5. I lean Illinois, but don't love it. Maryland on the road at Nebraska. Maryland minus 2.5, total 45. Maryland's lost 4 in a row ever since they had that Ohio State debacle where they were winning and they just couldn't capitalize in the red zone. It kept them in the game, and they end up beating them late. That, again, shows me Ohio State. I'm just really not sure they've played anybody good, and I know everybody knows I don't like Ohio State, but I'm trying to be objective here. I thought they were going to be really good last year, and they were. So, I mean, I'll try to be as neutral as I possibly can, but I'm just not certain that they've played anybody good. I don't think Penn State's any good. I don't think Notre Dame's any good. Maryland, just average. But they've lost 4 in a row, but I think they get back on track here if they haven't completely given up. Only laying 2.5 on the road in Nebraska. That seems way too easy. If they show up at all, they'll win this game. Nebraska is horrendous. North Carolina State on the road at Wake Forest. NC State minus 2.5, total 45. I knew Miami would struggle with NC State. It's the kind of game that's not going to work very well for them. Miami kind of lost its luster. I'm hoping that they can find it this week. I think they will. NC State laying points on the road, not interested in that. It's either Wake or pass. If it got the field goal, I consider Wake Forest. Pac-12 action, 2 o'clock kick. Coach Prime hosting the Arizona Wildcats. Colorado catching 10.5 at home, the total 54. Arizona's been the hot team. Everybody's on them. They've been the underdog that everybody's liked in the Pac-12, and they're getting better and better and better. But I don't like them here. I think Colorado covers the 10.5. It's a tough place to play, Boulder. I think the place will be rocking, and I think the Buffs will cover the game. I still think Arizona is good enough to win this game and probably will, but Colorado covers. I'll take the 10.5 with the Buffaloes. Keeping it in the, Pac-12. Jeez. Colorado used to be in the Big 12. Baylor at Kansas State. Kansas State minus 20.5, total 55.5. My poor Baylor Bears, a loser in a full season bet that we had on them to go over their win total. It's just been a disaster. Cousin Jake and the guys lost last week in overtime to Houston, and I don't see it getting any better here. This could be a really ugly situation. Kansas State coming off a game that they had no business even contending in. They came all the way back, had a chance that they should have won the game, and then they just had a disaster. The play calling down inside the goal line, not kicking a field goal in overtime, I don't understand. Just stupidity all the way around. I think they come out pissed off, and could be a hide the women and children game for the Baylor Bears. I hope not. 3:30 kick Miami at Florida State. Florida State minus 14.5. Total 50. This line's way too high. And again, full transparency, I am a Miami fan, but I'm very honest about Miami. They're not a very good team. Had they held on against Georgia Tech, I think their whole season would be different. But I do think they will come with ultra focus in this rivalry game against a team that isn't that much better than them. They've had a better season, no hiding that. But I'm not certain Florida State's beat anybody good either. I don't really know how good LSU is. They got a great offense, but their defense is terrible. I don't know. I think Florida State is good, but I don't think they're 14.5 points better than Miami. If you can get 14 in the hook, I'd take Miami. Miami has a chance to win the game, I would say, if they don't make mistakes. That's easier said than done, but I think they'll contend in this game, and I think Florida State will come crashing back down to earth as they've kind of had a pass into this top four in this playoff ranking, which is kind of silly because I don't know who they've beaten. The ACC is absolutely a horrible conference, but this is their last chance at a game where they possibly could lose. I don't think Florida can beat them, so I'm going to take a shot with my Hurricanes to keep it within 14.5, and don't be surprised if they don't win this game because they can, and they've beaten them many times at Doak Campbell Stadium, and it's not even a place that Miami's intimidated to go play in because they've had a lot of success over there in that shitty western panhandle of Florida. So let's hope for the best. Oklahoma State on the road at UCF. The Cowboys coming off a huge win against Oklahoma. They'll be laying 2.5 on the road, total 64. They are Oklahoma State 5-0 ATS their last 5. Mike Gundy's really gotten this team playing well. Looks too easy here, though. I'd be a little bit worried. I want to lay under the field goal, definitely. But, man, can they keep this rolling? UCF, to me, is on the verge of packing it in for the season. So for that reason, I like Oak State. But, man, this just looks like a too low of a number, so I may stay away because it looks a little fishy. Minnesota on the road at Purdue. Purdue -1. Total 46.5. This is a pass game for me. Both these teams horrendous. Maybe the under in this game, 46.5. Seems a little bit too high. Northwestern at Wisconsin. Wisconsin -11. 42.5 the total. I just don't understand how Wisconsin continues to lay large amounts of points. Touchdown and a half every week against these teams. They're not any better than them. So the only thing that would make me concerned about playing Northwestern is Wisconsin was thoroughly embarrassed last week against Indiana. They had no business even participating in the game. They had no chance to win it. They were laying a huge number, and here they come back home laying another huge number. I lean Northwestern if it stays above 10, but I do think Wisconsin will give a little bit better of a focused effort, but I don't know. 42.5, again, too many points. I'm going to be playing that game under, and speaking of Big Ten games with low totals or unders that are in your mind as soon as you read it, Rutgers at Iowa in the lowest total almost in recorded civilization for modern-day tackle football. The Iowa Hawkeyes laying 1.5 at home. The total, 29. And this thing actually is a 28.5 in some spots. That is almost unthinkable. But I'll be playing this game under. There's no chance in the world I'm betting it over. And I like Rutgers in the game. I think Rutgers is a little better than Iowa. Rutgers has shown some fight. They're well coached. And I think if this game stays low like I think it will, I think Rutgers can win this game, like 13-9 or something like that. I like the Scarlet Knights to win this game outright, plus the 105 on the money line. If it got up to a field goal, I'd take them with the points, but I'll be betting them with the money line, and I like the game under. I think it'll eventually get up back to 30, but I don't know. Even if it isn't, I don't care. As long as it's 4 touchdowns with the hook, I'll be playing the game under 100%, and I won't even sweat because Iowa they can't do anything. They get 2 yards of offensive quarter. Just horrendous. These shouldn't even be allowed to have a football program that's that bad. And they ranked them in the playoffs yesterday. I mean, come on. Seriously? Moving out west, Pac-12, getting no respect again. Utah at Washington. Washington -9. Total 54. Washington is getting slighted here badly. They should be in the top 4 for sure. No doubt about it, the Pac-12 is the best conference in football right now. And I'm not somebody who's ever been a Pac-12 supporter, but You just need to watch the games, and you'll see that the Pac-12 is really good. And Washington is really good, and Oregon is really good, and Utah is pretty good. And Washington here laying 9 at home. I think they come out on a mission, pissed off. They're getting disrespected. I think they put it all over Utah. I know Utah is an up-and-down team right now. Their quarterback quit on them, which really hurt their chances at a good season. They're well coached, and I think they'll battle here, but Washington, too much firepower. Total 54, I like over. I think Utah will score some points here. Washington's got an opportunistic defense, but not a very stout one. So but that's all they need to do with an offense like that is to get a couple of stops. So you get 2 stops in the game, really. 2. If you get two in one half and 1 in the other, you have a chance to win with the offense like this. So that's all you need to do. So I'll be on Washington and the over in that game. Tennessee at Missouri. Tennessee on the road, -1, 58.5 the total. Missouri battled Georgia very hard. Lean Tennessee slightly here, but Missouri not to be overlooked. Pitt on the road at Syracuse. Pitt -3. That opened at Pitt -1.5 up to 3. Dino Babers and Syracuse are just a disaster right now. They can't do anything right. I don't know. Maybe they get it together here. I don't trust Narduzzi on the road, so I won't be playing Pitt. Total 37.5. That looks a little bit low. Syracuse usually at home can put up some points, but they haven't been lately, so I may roll the dice with the over in that game, but I'm not certain. Washington State on the road at Cal. Cal -1.5. Total 59. Washington State's been terrible. Cal's impressed me. They played a lot better than what you had thought of them preseason. So I'll be leaning on the Bears here. I think Washington State has completely shut it down for the season. They started out really well, and boy, they've come back to earth quickly. So I'll be leaning the Bears in that battle. Back to the SEC, Auburn and Arkansas. Arkansas -3. Total now 49. Opened actually down to 48. Total opened at 51, down to 49, down to 48. Home team 0-4 in the last 4 ATS. Arkansas up and down. I just can't get a read on them. Can't get a read on Auburn. Don't like playing them on the road. So I won't be playing anything in this game. Possibly the under is, to me, looks like the best bet. Stanford on the road at Oregon State. Oregon State -21. Total 54.5. I like the Beavers here. If I can get under the 21, I really like them. Oregon State just taking care of business right now. They've not been real flashy or impressive, but I think they get the job done here. Stanford's not going to sneak up on them, and they're really tough to beat up in Corvallis. I think Stanford's going to be in for a long day here, so I'll be taking the Beavers. Hopefully I can get that around 20 instead of 21, but we'll see. Ole Miss on the road at Georgia. People are talking about this being a big game. 7 o'clock kick, Georgia -11, total 58.5. Public on Ole Miss, which tells me to play Georgia. The unders in Georgia home games now on a 17-6 run, so that's something to keep in mind. 58.5 may be a little high. Watched a lot of the Ole Miss game last week against Texas A&M because I had Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they're undisciplined. They aren't good on defense. I don't want to say Lane Kiffin's a terrible coach, but he's not a very good game coach because he's so worried about offense. I just think Georgia checks all the boxes in this game. I just don't think Ole Miss can beat them. I don't think they're disciplined enough to beat them. Now, I know they have been able to beat Alabama from time to time or, surprise them here and there, Ole Miss has, but I don't know. Georgia just seems like too much of a business-like team. I don't think they get beat here, and I probably lean towards Georgia minus the 11 and possibly under in the game. But I can't play Ole Miss. I have no faith in them. They pissed around with Texas A&M, a team that they're far better than last week, and let them hang in the game. Didn't cover, depending on what the number was. If you got 2.5, you were good. If you had the 4 that it was originally, you weren't good. So I don't know. Don't trust Ole Miss at all. I'll lean Georgia, pretty heavy lean towards Georgia there in that one. West Virginia on the road at Oklahoma. Oklahoma minus 12.5, total 58.5. Oklahoma's lost 2 in a row. West Virginia was 0-9 against Oklahoma prior to last year's upset victory. I don't think they're going to get that done again, but Oklahoma's on the verge of maybe shutting it down for the year. 12.5, if it keeps around there, I think Oklahoma is the better team here, so I'd consider playing them, but if it gets up any higher than that, I'll be taking a shot with the Mountaineers or passing on the game. Also in the Big 12, Cincinnati at Houston, 2 of the newcomers. Houston minus 2.5, total 55.5. I'll tell you this, I am not a Dana Holgorsen fan. People know that. I think he's a clown and not really a very good coach, but he's got this team playing hard, and I got to give him credit. They won last week in overtime. They battled Texas to the wire. I mean, they've been playing a lot better. They beat the Mountaineers late. he has his team believing, and they're ready to go to a decent bowl game if they keep winning. And I like them a lot here. Cincinnati is really bad, and I think Houston really can name their score. The only thing that would concern me is if they overlook this game, which they shouldn't do, but you never know because that's a trademark of a Holgorsen team. The teams you're supposed to beat, you don't. So tread lightly, but I am impressed with the way Houston has been playing. Florida at LSU. LSU minus 13.5. Total 63.5. LSU should kill Florida here. They're going to Death Valley. Florida is not very good. LSU off of not a very good performance against Alabama, but they'll beat up on these bad teams, especially at home. Brian Kelly will try to score 1,000 in this game, so I'd lean LSU if we can get less than the 2 touchdowns. Take a look at the quarterback situation, though. That's important there. Florida, they just don't impress me at all. Probably the over here, too, 63.5. Looks like this will score into the 70s, I would guess. Michigan State on the road at Ohio State. Ohio State minus 31.5. Total 47. Ohio State just names a score here. It's just not even really a test. It's just a matter of how bad they'll win. And I don't know. I think maybe the under is a good play here because I can see Ohio State winning this game like 41-0 and Michigan State never crossing midfield. So I like under the 47. If it goes up any higher, I like it even more. Texas at TCU. Texas minus 10, total 53.5. Texas did not play very well last week. Actually, I take that back. They played very good for a little stretch. Then they completely kind of took their foot off the gas and almost lost. But they got the job done in the end. Quarterbacks is still a question mark. TCU, iffy. 10 on the road's a lot to lay, so if it's 10 and they don't have Ewers, I'll probably pass. But if they do, I like the game to go over the 53.5. SEC game, Mississippi State at Texas A&M. A&M minus 18.5, total 44.5. A&M, they actually had a chance to beat Ole Miss last week, but screwed up at the most inopportune times and lost the game by 2. I like this game under. Mississippi State's just awful on offense, and A&M pretty good defensively, so I think this stays very low scoring, but A&M probably wins, but I don't know if they can cover 18.5. Duke versus North Carolina, big ACC showdown, just 2 not very good teams here. People try to make them into being good teams, but they're really not. Carolina laying 12.5, total 50.5. Duke's got injuries. Carolina's season's over. Don't really have a play here, but I'd lean towards Duke with the points for some pride there. I think they're probably a little better coach than North Carolina. UCLA hosting the Arizona State Sun Devils. UCLA minus 17, total 44.5, open 47.5. UCLA's defense very good. I'm taking the Sun Devils here. UCLA just doesn't impress me at all on offense. And even though I think their defense is very good, I don't think they'll score enough to be able to cover 17. So I'll be taking the Sun Devils on the road to catch. If you're getting over 17 or 17.5, I would definitely lean towards the Sun Devils. Iowa State on the road at BYU, minus 6.5. That is Iowa State minus 6.5. Total 42.5. BYU sucks. Iowa State sucks. Something's got to give here, so I'll probably go towards the over in this game. BYU's offense or defense was terrible last week against the Mountaineers. Iowa State actually seems a little better on offense this year somehow. So leaning over there, but don't love anything. USC on the road at Oregon. Oregon minus 15. Total 73.5. Oregon on a 10-3 ATS run. They're really good. I'm very impressed with them. I think they hammer USC here. I think the game probably will go over, but USC probably going to have some guys start sitting out now as the season is about to crash and burn for them. It already is. It's over. Caleb Williams is on to the NFL, and with 3 losses, they're not making any significant bowl game or playoffs. So I think USC kind of just goes through the motions, and Oregon will be like wild dogs in this game, and they'll be jumping all over them. They need impressive wins too. They're getting slighted as well as Washington, and I think they'll try to score as many as they possibly can. Finishing it up with a big clash out in San Jose. Fresno State on the road at San Jose State. Fresno minus 1, total 56.5. Fresno State against conference opponents, the Mountain West Conference, are just 1-4 ATS on the season. Not good enough for me. I think San Jose State, and this might be the biggest game they've had in a long time, I'm going to take a shot with the Spartans at home to cover and probably win the game, I guess, because if you're only getting 1, you're probably going to have to win the game. So, yep, I'll be on San Jose State. That concludes the college card for this week. Coaches' plays I'll post on social media as well as Instagram once Job gets the graphics done for those. And you can check those out at BLS_PRP or at the Pine Room Studios on all social media. Keep track of Coach in my plays as well as Chris, who will probably submit some plays as well for the weekend. We're going to take a quick break here on Bettor's Last Stand, and we'll be back in segment 2 to touch on a little hockey, NBA, and NFL. It's Bettor's Last Stand from the Pine Room Studios, show number 61. We'll be back after this.
Bettor's Last Stand is for entertainment purposes only, but who better to listen to than the guys here at the Pine Room? For more picks you might have missed, follow Bettor's Last Stand and all of Matt's picks on X, formerly Twitter, at BLS_PRP. Because just like General Custer, we're in Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in Bettor's Last Stand. Segment number 2 here. Show 61. Be sure and see our friends at IC Cab. They do wonderful work. I was in a jam a few weeks ago and had to use the IC Cab service in the really early hours of the morning, and they came through for me as expected. They do a wonderful job servicing the entire area, the entire region, really. So give them a call. And actually, the really easy thing to do is to download their app, which I did, and it's super simple, and you'll get a driver within a couple of minutes, and you'll be well on your way. Book your rides well in advance for your nights out, whether you're going to a game, whether you're going to the bar, whatever it is you're doing. IC Cab is your way to get to where you need to go in a safe and reliable manner, and Phil and the group there do a wonderful job. So be sure and see them. They're a proud sponsor of our stuff here at the Pine Room Studio, so we appreciate them along with all of our other sponsors, Duggars, Gumby's, Jill's Lounge, all the people with the Watchdog, and so on and so forth. We also have on our Friday shows going forward, we're going to have a segment called Nailing It Down, which is a focus on the Wheeling Nailers, who are playing great hockey right now. Hockey well underway here, a couple weeks into the ECHL season, and Nailers looking really strong right now. Had a couple of nice performances over the weekend against Reading, and they are home for 3 games this week. So get on out there and check out the Nailers. Enjoy the ECHL action. I think they're going to have a really good season, assuming they don't get decimated by call-ups at some point. But we appreciate everything the Nailers are doing to sponsor with us and partner with us on a lot of stuff. So check out Nailing It Down on our Friday shows on the Watchdog, 12 to 3. It's going to be in the 2 o'clock hour, I believe, is what we're going to try to go with. Obviously, it may change sometimes based on guest availability and so forth. But excited to be partnering with the Nailers and some of the other places that we've worked with throughout the year. And we're happy to have everybody on board and appreciate all the support. So, again, get with IC Cab. Get yourself set up for the weekend. They do a wonderful job. And, can't say enough about them. They're everywhere, all over the city. And that's what we need, because we had no real cabs here in Wheeling for a long time. And this has been just great to see. So glad to see they're thriving, and we're happy to have them on board with us. And many thanks to Phil and his group over at IC Cab. All right, NHL time. Talked about ECHL there briefly. NHL. We are a few weeks into the season here. You got some teams that are starting to show that, they're contenders. The Penguins have won 2 in a row, which is, I don't really know what if to get excited about that. They're going to struggle all season, I think. So I'm not real high on them. The Metropolitan Division is led by the Rangers, who are pretty good. Devils and Hurricanes are going to be tough as well. Penguins, though, 5-6 on the season. It's not good enough. Bruins 10-1-1 in the Atlantic. I gave out Toronto at the beginning of the season. I thought they'd be a little better, but they still haven't solved their goaltending problems. They're just not good enough. 6-4-2 to start it out. They won't have a prayer, and they're not going to win the Stanley Cup again. And sorry, Canada, the Oilers aren't either. 2-8-1. Everybody wants to say how bad the Sharks are at 1-10-1, finally getting their first win against the Flyers last night. But the Oilers, one of the top-ranked teams at the beginning of the season, top power-rated teams, and they are 2-8-1. And it just shows you, if you have bad goaltending, you're not going to win. And I don't care how good Connor McDavid is or any of these people. The Oilers have not made a commitment to try to play two-way hockey, and they'll never win anything like that. Pretty close to what Toronto's doing. The exact same thing in the Eastern Conference. No goaltending, and very little commitment to defense. So until you have that, you're not going to win. You got teams like Colorado and Dallas who are balanced teams, 8-3, 7-3 on the season. You got the Golden Knights, really balanced team. They're 11-1. You're just not going to beat these teams like that. So, sorry, Canada, you will not win a Stanley Cup again this year. You can write that down right now unless some major things happen at the trade deadline. NHL period data. This stuff is really good. We talk about it on here every week, along with the power play points, which you should be hunting for. Checking out guys, good power play units against bad PK units. Find some guys on the power plays. Put those bets in there. They're really good, and they're paying off dividends. You need one goal, and sometimes you can cash 3 bets. So not many times you can do that in any other sport where you can get 2 secondary, a primary assist, a secondary assist, and a goal on the power play and cash 3 bets at one time. So look for those numbers. They're out there, and I do not detect that bookmakers are pricing those based on the other team's penalty kills versus power play percentage. It doesn't look like it so far that they're making any adjustments in that. Obviously, football is a focus still, so maybe they'll tighten those up later, and we're going to talk about that as well after I go through these NHL numbers. Goal in the first 10 minutes. The Minnesota Wild are 11-1, and they had another one the other night. It was like a minute and a half into the game they scored. So 11-1, goal in the first 10 minutes. So this is starting to become something that is a trend worth playing on. You don't want to play against these because they continue to hit. You're 11-1. That's a pretty decent sample size. 12 games in, and you scored a goal in the first 10 minutes 11 times. It's not necessarily that you scored it, but you either give it up or score it yourself. So Wild coming out with fast-paced play early, and they've been cashing these. Edmonton 9-2. A lot of those are against because they're absolutely awful on defense and bad in goal. Ottawa 8-2. Ottawa, good team. I like them a lot. Philadelphia 10-3. Goal in the first 10 minutes. Yes. So you got some mixed things here. You got the Wild, pretty solid team. Ottawa, very good team. Philadelphia, awful. Edmonton, awful. So a little bit of a mix. So you can have this goal in the first 10 work for you in both ways. You can score the goal or give it up. So however these teams are getting it done, they're getting it done. So those percentages do not lie. Goal in the first 10, no. There's only one team that really has been solid in this area, and that's probably – they're also pretty solid in first period unders as well, and that's Boston. Boston 8-4, no goal in the first 10 minutes. So Bruins continue to be buttoned up at the back, solid goaltending, good two-way players. First period overs and unders. Overs, here are over teams. Edmonton 9-2. Ironically, they're 9-2. Goal in the first 10. They're 9-2 to the over in the first period. Buffalo and Philadelphia. There's Philadelphia again. 10-3 to the over in the first period. Again, teams that aren't very good on defense. New Jersey and Nashville. 9-3 goal to go over in the first period. Sorry, New Jersey and Nashville 9-3 to the over in the first period. Jersey's very good offensively. Nashville's a decent two-way team, but have been performing at a pretty high level so far, scoring goals early and often. The unders, the best under team in the first period so far, the Anaheim Ducks, and they were under again last night against the Penguins. They're 8-4 in the season to the under. So over is a little bit more value on those than there are the unders. The unders are a little bit tricky because you get a turnover or something crazy happen. You can burn up a goal really fast, so you got to watch that. But going back to value here, is college basketball we talked about in the first segment. You're getting very soft lines here. You watch these numbers move. You're seeing lines moving 5, 6, 7, 8 points a day. So when you get up in the morning and you're into this, check those numbers and then check them again at lunchtime, and you'll start seeing these lines starting to move. And as soon as you start to see a point move on these, you want to try to jump on them because there's guys out there who only do college basketball. They've been power rating these teams all winter and summer and since last year almost. So they're ready to go. And the bookmakers, we're not focused on this. Football is still the number one draw right now. Basketball is a secondary thing. So we're not paying nearly the attention that you're going to get paid to basketball here in a few months or weeks, really. But you got to take advantage of this while you can. The most lucrative time to bet college basketball is in the first month of the season, especially the first 2 or 3 weeks. You're getting some lines that are just crazy moves, and you're getting some incredible value. So watch those lines. If a line opens at 2 and goes to 7, play the team laying the 7. You want to try to get it before it gets there, but you see what I mean. And then same with the totals. You're getting 4, 5, 6 point moves on these totals. Check those out. All the moves will get there, but a lot of times you're going to see sharp, respected money moving these things quickly. So if you can jump on them and have one of those odd services up, Wager Talk's got a really good one. You can see like 10 different books at once, and you can see them in real time when they move. So take a peek at those. It's really worth looking at. You're going to want to try to capitalize on college basketball early in the season before it starts to get tightened up and you get into conference play and it gets a little bit more difficult. But the value's out there. Hockey, first periods, and college basketball should be where you're focusing. NBA, not going to talk about it a whole lot. It's just a horrible product. But these are the teams that are bad against the spread so far this season. The Heat are 1-6 ATS. The Bucks are 1-4-1 ATS. The Bulls 2-6 ATS. The Grizzlies 2-5 ATS. LeBron, the wonderful LeBron and the Lakers, 2-5 ATS. The Cavs, 2-5 ATS. Best ATS team, 76ers, 6-0. That might end tonight. They play the Celtics. Nets, 6-0-1 against the spread so far. And Orlando and OKC, two teams that are good young teams that I like. Orlando and OKC, both 5-2 ATS so far. So those you want to keep an eye on, definitely. A couple of bad beats from the weekend. If you had the Falcons, how about that? 3.5, they're laying. No quarterback really for the Vikings. The guy they have, the rookie, gets hurt. Dobbs, who's been on the team for like a half an hour, comes in, doesn't know any plays, doesn't know any cadence, doesn't know any of his teammates. Somehow gets the job done. They win the game 31-28. So kind of a bad beat if you had Atlanta right there. You thought you were in pretty good shape, but Atlanta is just a disaster, which I pretty much said that from the beginning of the season. I don't like the coach. I don't like the team, and they got quarterback problems. So another one, Cowboys. Geez, you had multiple chances to cover against the Eagles. Really, really, really bad. Big Mike, as usual, just when you think the Cowboys look okay, Big Mike does what he does. Although it's not really his fault. They get stopped on like the inch line, and which was the right call. And then Dak steps out of bounds on a 2-point try, which would have covered it. And then CeeDee Lamb gets tackled well short of a touchdown late. And yeah, just everything can go wrong for Dallas usually does. So no faith in them. They have 0% chance to win the Super Bowl. So I'm sorry, that's just the way you see it. If you watch these games, you know it. You can just see it. They'll fold. They'll be good at home though. They'll win games at home. If they were somehow able to be able to get the 1 seed, then maybe they can make it. But they're not going to be. They'll never beat Philadelphia, and they'll never beat San Francisco. Sadly, Hard Rock. The Hard Rock Sportsbook app launched in Florida this past week, actually Tuesday, and they pre-registered for accounts, so you can't wager on it yet, but they opened it up to let people start to register. Not sure when that's going to go live, but the retail books are going to go live in December, so around the Christmas season, bowl season, they'll be live in Florida at all the Hard Rock properties. So pretty exciting stuff. I know those people have been waiting for a long time. Talked about this earlier. Iowa, Rutgers line opening at 29, now 28.5. Iowa again last week, 29.5. It was a 10-7 game. The other game we talked about last week, Army Air Force, was open 32, finished 23-3. So these games, I mean, when they're low like this, they're low for a reason. They just usually stay under. So keep an eye on that. Top 4 public sides were 0-4 in college football last week. Notre Dame, Michigan, Texas, and LSU. None of those teams cover. Texas and Michigan both won, but did not cover. LSU and Notre Dame both lost and did not cover. Public's on Ole Miss. Sharp's on Penn State, as I mentioned earlier. The public teams so far in the NFL. I misread my notes here. Sorry. The public actually won in the NFL this week, which is something. Yeah, you're right. I have to read that twice. Public actually won in the NFL for the first time all season. Sportsbook reported an overall loss in week number 9, as some of the public teams finally got there. So good week for the public. I'm sure they'll give it all back here this week. Most bet teams of the season in the NFL this year now improved to 3-6 on the year. NFL unders, if you're betting these blindly, you're over 60%, 83-52 to the under, 61%. And the New England Patriots, 3-13 ATS in their last 16 games. That's just not getting it done. Poor Belichick, as he continues to struggle. They'll be in Germany this week. We'll see what they got in store for the Colts, and we're going to start it off right there with that game on NFL Network at 9:30 on Sunday morning. It'll be New England and Indianapolis. Indianapolis minus 1.5, if you can believe it. Total 43.5. I like this game under a lot. I just don't see any points coming here. I've liked all the games overseas under, and I believe every one of them stayed under. Buffalo, last week's did. Buffalo, Jacksonville did. And I'm drawing a blank on who the other game was over there. But I think they're 3-0 to the under, so check that. But I'd like this under a lot. Belichick will have something ready for Gardner Minshew or whoever quarterbacks for Colts. I guess it'll be him, and then New England just can't move the ball at all. So under in that game, 43.5. Cleveland at Baltimore. Baltimore -6, 37.5 the total. Too many points to be given Cleveland. Cleveland's really good. Deshaun Watson plays in this game. 6 is outrageous. I know the Ravens probably should be undefeated, and they're playing really good right now, but they're due to have a backslide. They just never seem to be consistent with Lamar Jackson. I like under in this game, too. I think 37.5 is a little too high. I think this will be a good defensive battle. Both defenses very good, and the quarterback play will be the question. Which quarterback can make more plays? But 37.5, too high for me in that ball game. So we're going under. Houston at Cincinnati. Cincinnati playing well. But, again, if you go back and watch these games, Cincinnati laying 7 here, total 48. Cincinnati's got really fortunate breaks here. The schedule that they've played, my God. They've had, I mean, Seattle should have beat him. The Rams should have beat him. I mean, teams are leaving opportunities out there, and the Bengals are lucking out. And, yeah, they beat the Bills, who are struggling right now. I just don't think the Cincinnati team's any good at all. Laying 7's too many, but Houston worries me off of a big win last week. I think they'll take a little bit of a backslide. If I can get 7 in the hook, I'll probably take Houston. But Cincinnati probably wins this game by a field goal, so everybody can say how great they are. But they're not very good at all, and I still think they'll be last in the AFC North. And they probably, if they even made the playoffs, they would be out very quickly. I just don't buy into that team whatsoever and never will. They've done nothing to show me any different than the past couple of years. They've been totally lucky, and their luck will run out at some point. San Francisco on the road at Jacksonville off the bye. Both these teams off bye. San Francisco -3, total 46. 2-9 off the bye. San Francisco is their last 11. A lot of that's Shanahan, so I don't like that number at all. They're in desperate need of a win. They've lost 3 in a row. Jacksonville was playing very well going into the bye. They're 5-1 as a home dog in their last 6. So I'd lean Jacksonville. If I can get the field goal or 3.5 eventually, if it gets that high, I'll lean Jacksonville here. Don't love either play. Maybe under in the game. Both teams pretty good. Both teams playoff teams. New Orleans at Minnesota. New Orleans -2.5. On the road at Minnesota, I just don't understand how they can be laying points against anybody. The New Orleans Saints are absolutely horrible, and yeah, they won last week, but that you got to look at some of these teams that they're playing against. Minnesota, they found something last week. Dobbs has had a week of practice now, and I'm not saying I like this spot for them because they're off an emotional win last week when it looked like they were completely done. So I don't love that part, but I believe a little bit more in Minnesota's defense. I just don't like New Orleans at all. I'll lean Minnesota. If I can get a field goal at home with Minnesota, I just feel like that's way off. I like the Vikings to win this game. Obviously don't love them, but I like them. Steelers -3 at home, total 39 against the Packers. The Packers are 13-5 ATS as an away dog, but a lot of that was Aaron Rodgers, so you got to throw that out. Packers very fortunate to win last week. They played, a handicap team more or less. Steelers, same situation. Just teams just continue to let the Steelers off the hook time after time after time after time. Man, something about this says to me that Green Bay could win this game because it's just one of those games the Steelers blow. But I'll be taking the safe play here. Steelers are probably a little better, and Jordan Love cannot play. He's absolutely awful. He should not be a starting quarterback. I like the under in this game, total 39. I think that's going to be really tough to get over 39 with these two teams. Green Bay and Pittsburgh, maybe the 2 worst first quarter offenses in the history of the NFL. I would say that you may want to take a look at the first half under too. So there's a lot to be said here for this game. 39 just way too high. Tennessee at Tampa. Tampa -1, total 38. Tampa battled last week. Baker Mayfield thought he had the win, but he didn't. Tennessee, Will Levis played all right, but they just can't make the plays when they need to. But Tennessee's a team that doesn't stay down for long, so I'll take the Titans plus any points they can get here. Vrabel, I think, will have them focused. They got a little bit more of a bounce in their step now that they have a better quarterback, so I think that helps. Atlanta and Arizona, just an awful game. Atlanta -1 on the road, 42.5. How Atlanta can be laying points to anybody. Kyler Murray looks like he'll play here. Arizona plays hard. Atlanta is on the verge of complete meltdown. They had their way in this really bad division, and they still can't get any breathing room. I don't like this Falcons team. I think Arthur Smith's about to get canned here real soon. So I'll take a shot with Arizona at home if I can get them. I think they keep the game close. Maybe under in this game, too. 42.5 seems a little high. The Lions on the road at the Chargers. Lions minus 2.5, 48.5 the total. Lions on a 15-3 ATS run. When do you see the Lions laying points on the road? Not very often, but I like the Lions a lot here. They're the better team. Chargers just don't impress me. They did nothing on Monday Night Football, won the game easily against just the lowly Jets. Chargers never really played well back-to-back games. They didn't play well last week, but they won. So I look for them to have a backslide here. There'll be a lot of Lion fans out there in Los Angeles, I think, and I like the Lions. If you can get less than a field goal, take the Lions. Giants at Cowboys. This game, Cowboys 10-1, ATS off of a loss in their last 11. Dallas is laying 16 here, total 38.5. I like the Cowboys a lot here, almost to the point where I want it to be my best bet, but I'm probably going to pass on that. At 16 is just so many to lay in an NFL game. But, man, if you can get less than 17, I think it's really, really enticing. I do like this game over, too. I think Dallas might score 45 themselves. That didn't sound right. Themselves, probably 40 or more. Dallas minus 16, 38.5. I like Dallas and I like over 10. Man, I want to give that as my best bet in the NFL, but I just don't know if I can lay 16. But, man, if I was ever going to lay 16, this is where I wanted it to be. This is another game I have a pretty strong opinion in, although I'm a little worried about the Seahawks. They're 4-8-1 ATS as a home favorite in their last 13. They're coming off of a terrible performance against the Ravens. I think they'll bounce back as they host the Commanders. They're laying 6, the total 45.5. I really like this game over 45.5. I think that's a really, really strong play. I think Seattle will bounce back and score a lot in this game, and I think Washington has a horrible secondary, which will be good for the Seahawks, and I think Washington will be scrappy enough to score 20 themselves. So I look for this game to be something like 38-21 or something along those lines, and a lot of points in this game. So that one is going to be my NFL best bet of the week. It'll be the Seahawks and the Commanders over 45.5. Sunday night game, Jets at Raiders. Jets minus 1.5, total 36. God, the Jets are bad. The Raiders played good last week, but will they have a backslide? Antonio Pierce coaching the team. Can they get up for the game again? If they can, they'll kill the Jets. If they can't, then the Jets will hang in this game. I think under might be the play here, 36. The Raiders made more of a commitment to running the ball last week, which was good. And I think with the quarterback upgrade they have, I think they'll be a little safer with the ball. The Jets can't score at all, and people keep telling me they got a good defense. I'm just not really sure about that. But under the play for me there. Monday Night Football, Denver at Buffalo. Buffalo minus 7.5, total 47. Bills are just there. This is it for them. I don't know what's wrong with this team. We said it earlier in the season, and then we thought maybe they had gotten past it and they were back to where they were a couple years ago, but they're not. This team, losing Matt Milano, just too much for them to overcome. They lost their top corner and their top defensive lineman, too. So, I don't know. 7.5 is a lot to lay, but Denver, we obviously have no faith in them. Maybe under in this game, but then again, I don't know. Denver's hasn't been able to stop many teams, although they did limit the Chiefs, weirdly enough. So, I don't know. Don't have a strong play on that one, so probably a pass and kind of a wait-and-see approach there. But that concludes our NFL plays of the week. Just going back, Seattle, Washington over is my best bet. And let me go back to the college and give you my best bet there in college. I know we'll have these up on social media, but I just want to be sure that people are aware of it on the show as well. My best bet of the week is going to be the Houston Cougars minus 2.5. I'm trusting Dana Holgerson here, which is a little bit of a concern, but we'll be going with them. I was leaning towards Rutgers, had Alabama in the mix, Kansas, Maryland, but and in the end, I settled on Houston. Also like Miami as well. So anyway, that'll do it for the football part of the program. We're going to come back, and Sammy P will be joining us to talk a little bit of racing, put a bow on the NASCAR season, talk a little F1, and then get his thoughts on all the ongoings across the sporting world. I always said the Pine Room on the Watchdog. It is Bettor's Last Stand from the Pine Room Studios in the Watchdog building. We're going to take a quick break and be back with Sam after this. All right, welcome back in Bettor's Last Stand. Before we get to Sam real quick, I wanted to at least put coaches' plays in the show instead of just putting them on social media. All right, college football, going through these really quick. He is on Penn State plus 4.5, Arizona minus 10.5, Oklahoma minus 12.5, James Madison minus 24.5. His top plays: Alabama minus 10.5, Kansas minus 3.5, Miami plus the points. He has 9.5, but that's like 14.5, I think. Tennessee, Missouri over 58.5, and UCF plus 2.5 in his top play. And I like this one as well. Ohio State, Michigan State under 47.5 in pro football. His leans are Cleveland plus 6, which I like. Houston plus 6.5, which I like. His strong plays: Steelers minus 3.5, Lions minus 2.5, which I like. Giants, Cowboys under 38.5. I like that one over just because I think Dallas will score 40. And then his best bet in the NFL is Jacksonville plus the 3, and I like that one as well against the 49ers. So those are coaches' plays. We'll be right back with Sam to talk racing on Bettor's Last Stand.
Reminder, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activities should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. All right, men, load the cannons and hold the line. You're listening to Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in. Bettor's Last Stand, show number 61. Sam joins me now as I got Watchdog here by my side as Chris and Coach enjoying the last few days of the nice weather, I guess. Chris at a trade show. Coach up on a ladder somewhere, although the darkness probably has that. He's probably cleaning up right now in the dark. Sam, welcome back to the show, buddy. Clocks are turned back now. As you mentioned before we started, you go to work, it's dark. You come home, it's dark. I can kind of relate to that. And, so how's everything in Upper St. Clair these days?
Yeah, things are good. You know, if that's the biggest issue in my life, I have a great life, but I want something to complain about. I'm going to bitch about it.
Right, exactly. So, one thing you can bitch about too, which I love the toboggan there, the Baylor Bears, but man, we're a mess right now. Gosh.
Struggling, man. I wore it just out of good faith,
Yeah, no, we got to keep the love going. Talked about them earlier in the show, and just, it is. Man, last week OT, I thought they had it, and Dana Holgerson playing spoiler again. He's got his team playing pretty good somehow. I don't know how.
He saved his job when he beat West Virginia.
Yep, and then he played Texas tough, and then he gets a win there. So, yeah, they're playing pretty good football right now. Sad day is upon us as NASCAR's in the books. It was a really happy ending, though, for me. I had the Blaney ticket cash. We talked about it a few weeks ago about we both thought he had a legitimate chance at 12-1. We thought that was a little bit high, and he got the job done. Was really happy for him, and a pretty good race. And we came out on the good side of things for a change.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, honestly, like I texted you, the season could not have ended better with the 4 that they had to pick from, because the other 3 are kind of like dud personalities. To be honest, and it's like the only one that's going to make NASCAR look cool, this look cool to me, was Ryan Blaney.
Yes.
And I don't know if somebody got under his skin or he just had something on his shoulder, but these last probably 4 races, there was something about Ryan Blaney and the way he was driving that car. I can't wait for next year, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and it shows how good of a driver he is when he is really, invested. And not to say that he ever didn't take it serious, but he seems like a really likable dude and just across the board, just a really nice guy. But as you said, the other guys, a little odd personalities. Whereas Blaney seems like the kind of guy that you could sit and bullshit and drink with and just have a good time with. And which it showed on some of his stops as he went. He was hanging out at the Barstool people and, so on and so forth. But it was really nice to see that. And it shows this guy always had the talent, and once he, like you said, maybe something happened we don't know about that motivated him, gave him extra motivation, but he was on a mission, and he was dialed in, and hats off to him and his team for the last 4 races just being the very best.
And I look here at the Team Penske itself, and you see Blaney, Cindric, Logano. They've backed Logano.
Right.
Cindric, we've talked about
right.
week after week, his dad, his last name. But it's like Blaney, he's got his father's legacy. He has him. And I think it was just fine. Like, all right, here you go. We're going to give you the push.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah, and it's good to see because, Penske, obviously, really good team across all their racing teams. Logano, he had a weird season, but arguably, still one of the best drivers. So I expect for him to come back strong next year. And yeah, we'll see what Blaney can do. See if he can turn this into a little rivalry because Chase Elliott's going to be coming back with a vengeance this year, and then he's got to deal with his own teammates who all probably feel like they were. William Byron arguably had the best season of any racer from top, start to finish. And, just wasn't quite good enough in the 4 races that he needed to be. And, Larson's really talented. And Chris Bell, if he could get more consistent, we talked about him. His problem was when he has a bad week, it was a really bad week. And that kind of happened again this week for him.
Yeah, I mean, a brake rotor, you can't have that happen on the last race.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's hardly his fault. But, yeah, the team,
right.
When you say the inconsistencies, it basically the whole team is a fault for that or irresponsible for that because, Martin Truex, we talked about his woes, his pit road issues, his speeding penalties, loose tires, all kind of weird shit that's happened to him. And he maybe was going to be in that Final Four if he didn't have those kinds of things happen. But yeah, good season was. It's sad to see it end, but it'll be Daytona before too long. Hopefully,
I know. Hopefully, man.
Hopefully it goes fast. Yeah, we can. We'll have to have some of this other stuff tide us over until then. World Series in the books as well. Tip your cap to the Rangers. They don't lose on the road in the playoffs. It's just amazing. But yeah, it's good to see them. I had no issue with either team in the World Series, so I was going to be fine with it either way. Good season for the Diamondbacks, but yeah, the Rangers are probably going to be kind of right there with the Astros as maybe like the new, like they're kind of taking over. This might be their little run here for 5 or 6 years to be in contention every year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it seems like it. They have pitching locked up. They have some players locked up. They
yeah,
have money
young
to spend,
guys,
apparently.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, I can't see them not being back.
Yeah,
And they didn't even have DeGrom.
Right. And then Scherzer was just, partial. I mean, I don't even know if he's got anything left anyway. But, yeah, they got some good young players. They add a few pieces. They're going to be well on their way to being in the mix, probably in the league championship series or close to it every year for the next half a decade or so. So, Diamondbacks, they nothing to be upset about with them. Good season. If they can add some stuff, then they may be a contender in the National League, and at least it was nice to see them being able to showcase some of their good young players as well on a big stage.
Yeah, I agree. But I have one gripe with baseball, and they always do this. It's the manager carousel.
I know.
Melvin gets fired from San Diego.
Why?
And now he's just going to go to San Francisco.
Why would they want him? Why?
That's what I mean. It's the same thing. They can spend the same amount of money. It's a him issue. It's not a...
Yeah, and Bob Melvin's days have passed him by. He's not... That's a bad decision. And then, what are the Cubs doing? What the hell are they doing? Craig Counsell has been just like a flatline manager for like the last 5 years. They've had teams that have underperformed. What are the Cubs thinking? I think Milwaukee is actually the team that benefited the most from this. Him leaving.
Yeah,
they needed a change. They just were stagnant.
Yeah, I just find it shocking. It's honestly it's so similar to college football, and I guess all coaching really. It's just they get in this like the coaching portal, and it's like, oh, he got fired, I'll take him.
I just can't believe the Giants would take a guy out of their own division, and then the Cubs do the same thing.
It's so odd.
Bizarre.
Like the in-division trade the Pirates made me feel weird, but now this is weird. It's like it doesn't matter.
No, and then you got to think like I'm sure like the Dodgers are probably like, oh, good, he stayed with the Giants, our arch rivals. Perfect. Yeah, but. I mean, this works out well for us. And like I say, I think the Brewers benefited the most. And I don't think Counsell was a terrible manager. I just think his shelf life ran out. And I don't know. For whatever reason, he seems like the kind of manager to me. He doesn't have, I don't know what it is. He can't seem to bring his teams to be able to rise to the occasion. He's a good regular season manager, I guess I should say. And he just doesn't do anything for me in the playoffs. I feel like the Cubs will be taking a step backwards, but I don't know.
I hope.
I guess
hope so.
you're right. Right. We can only hope because the Cardinals aren't going to be down, and then their damn Reds are going to be a thorn in our side for a while now. Now it depends on Milwaukee how they turn out with somebody new. So we shall see. Buccos, there's still some hope. We'll start talking about that in the dead of winter.
I could talk about it right now. I already got so many.
I'm sure you and Jarrett. We'll spare the listeners for a few weeks.
Bloody years.
Yeah, no, I was hoping that Shelty had moved on, but no, I guess we're going to be stuck with him. So
we can't get rid of him.
No, we're stuck with Shelty at least until they have to fire somebody next year when things aren't going well. But he'll be the scapegoat. That's probably why they'll keep him around. So
that's fine.
Yeah. Oh well. All right. So baseball in the books, NASCAR in the books, Formula One. We got 2 races left. Max wins again in Brazil. Next up, we got Vegas. Here we go. The long-awaited street race in 2 weeks. People of Las Vegas have been miserable for the last several months as they got ready for this thing. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. We talked about it last week. I'm excited about seeing what it's going to be like, but it could be very chaotic. Thoughts on the Grand Prix in Las Vegas here in a couple weeks?
I hope it's all right. Like, I just feel like it's going to be a bunch of like flashing lights and fireworks.
Yeah,
and
am I right at 10 p.m. Eastern time? Green flag? Is that?
I thought I'm
on
not
Saturday
sure,
night.
I thought I read that.
Yeah,
as well.
I think that's what it is.
It's just
stunning to me.
It is. It's stunning. That's a great word. It's that stunning. All these articles of like these barriers so you can't see, and now all these people in this union are gonna like walk out because they want this huge wage increase.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's
disaster.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Formula One just seems to.
It's weird.
Step on its own toe a lot. I like what they're trying to do. Some of the stuff. I really am happy that it's coming to the United States more. But they got to be careful. They're going to end up pissing people off. They're never going to want them back. I mean, the Vegas people can't. The locals hate it. Like they're like, this is it. We're not ever having them back. I mean, that's a shame. The race could be the best race ever. It won't matter.
It is. It's a shame. You can't shut the strip down for 2 months. Prior to the race, and then for one day, it's a race.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Yeah. So we're gonna get a 10 p.m. Eastern time green flag is what it looks like. So, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a spectacle. I'll say that. It'll be something to see. I'm sure on TV it's gonna look really cool. Now I just hope that the racing's decent. As Verstappen leads 68 of 71 laps again this past week. Lando led 3. He finished second. Fernando Alonso bounced back a little bit. The Aston Martins ran well. Lance Stroll, how about him? What the hell's up with that?
Unreal. Honestly, it put a smile on my face. It made me eat my words. Yeah. It really did. It was like RFK doing well.
Right,
I had to eat it.
Well, you won't have to worry about Lance Stroll for more than 2 more races, so that's all.
No, he's not a threat. But you know what? Sometimes you got to get humbled, Matt,
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And what was humbling to me is I thought the Mercedes guys would run a little bit better. They were horrendous.
Terrible. I mean, they took a huge step backwards.
Yeah, George Russell blew an engine, I believe, and then Lewis I thought I was expecting big things out of him, and man.
I was too. The whole race was weird. 5 DNFs and 1 did not start.
Yeah, and you gotta love that.
That's tough on a 19-car.
Yeah, our boy Ferrari, old Charles, he's up to his usual tactics.
On the formation lap, Matt.
That's amazing.
On the formation lap.
Starting second, can't even start. Yeah, jeez. Yeah, I mean,
like me and you, I'd do that.
Yeah, you just miss a shift as you're getting ready to stay. Now, Ferrari seems like the team that always has that stuff happen. It's pretty good stuff, and then they just have debacles like that. And Carlos Sainz finished 6th. I mean, disappointment. Ferrari just needs a whole overhaul, if you ask me. Sergio Perez, there's a Sergio Perez sighting. He finally ran okay.
Dude, they hate that guy. They hate that guy.
They do. The people have had enough of him. Sadly so.
I feel bad for him.
Yeah, and then your boy Valtteri, hydraulic issues.
Matt. Jesus. I mean.
Yeah. It's like they have 95 mechanics for these fucking cars, and they still have issues like that. It's bizarre.
Yeah. It is bizarre. He's struggling. Like we've been saying, he's got to get out of there.
He has to. I don't know why someone doesn't take a shot of the better team, because I'd love to see him in one of them Ferrari seats or the other Red Bull seat even. Like I think the guy's still got it, but we'll see. I don't know. Any other thoughts as we wrap up Brazil, and we got a week off this week, and then on to Vegas. We'll see what happens.
I hope it's exciting. I don't know how it's gonna be exciting though, because no one's ever raced this, this track.
Right.
Max is probably gonna get the lead, and it's just, it could be. I could be totally wrong. I hope I am, but I just don't see it going any other way.
The only advantage that the racers have is that Red Bull hasn't seen the track before, so maybe it makes it a little more even. But I don't know. You're probably right. He'll figure out a way to save some speed in practice and in the qualifying, and they'll have something set up. And once he gets to the lead, then they won't be able to overtake him unless there's some kind of issue like there was in the NASCAR course in Chicago where you had people running into barriers and shit and playing tricks on them. But I don't know. I guess.
Could you imagine what would happen in F1 if somebody came from another racing circuit and won? It would be
oh God,
be disastrous.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. They struggle to send out their guys of the other racing circuits and win ever. So I don't know. We'll see. 2 more races left. We got Abu Dhabi after that, and then we'll put a bow on that one and keep it quiet on the racing front until spring, until we start to see some of these other who goes in these cockpits next year, which is pretty interesting stuff, I guess. Real quick, back to NASCAR. Ross Chastain finishes off the season. We just talked about the championship aspect, but he that's probably a big win for him, with giving him a little bit of momentum going into the off season, wouldn't you say? Yeah,
and I think Suarez finished, I want to say 11th, so that's
the
highest up I've seen his name in quite some time. So I mean, Trackhouse, they had a good start to the season, definitely tapered off in the middle, but if you're going to end strong, and they did. So
yeah,
they got a lot of momentum going into next year with new drivers and Ben Gisbergen and all kind of stuff going on with them.
Yeah, so I mean, you got like we said before, Trackhouse, the RFK, both of those teams have made incredible, dramatic improvements over the last 2 years, and then you have your big boys still there, and still anxious to see about how some of these other teams start to come up through the ranks. But yeah, it should be another really strong season for NASCAR. It's sad to see Kevin Harvick go, but. Yeah.
I thought he had it for a little.
Yeah, no, I know. I was thinking, man, this might be fate. He might get the job done. But anyway, we'll look forward to getting back at Daytona. It'll be Speed Week before we know it. Can't wait for that. All right, Sam, let's shift over to hockey here briefly now. Penguins won 2 in a row, but I don't like what I'm seeing out of this team. I just don't see how they're going to be a contender. They just look like they have too many deficiencies, and the power play is number one.
Yeah, it's tough. We are right where we have always been. Our goalie is hurt. We're scrambling to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, Matt.
It is.
Unbelievable thing. I knew he was going to get hurt. He's always been hurt every year he's played. So this fits right into with everything that he's been doing. He's consistent in this.
You're right about that. He's consistently inconsistent, and he's not always available. And I heard, I found it interesting last week. I was listening to Mark Madden, and he said that he had heard from somebody kind of in the know that in the off season, I guess Dubas, Sullivan, and a couple of other guys in the front office, probably Spezza and some other people, basically came to terms that do we want to keep Jari or not? And they came to the conclusion that they couldn't find anybody that was better than him out on the market, so they decided to keep him. I think that's a terrible decision. I would have rather them just suck this year and then get a plan for the future. Don't just sign a guy because there's nobody better. That's not the solution.
Yeah, I mean that's like a fourth grader's way of figuring out who to be your goalie. Like, you know what? Let's just sign him because, dude, you know what you could do with that money?
Right.
Like, to give it to players that we need to facilitate the core three.
Right, and you can. I mean. Why not take a chance on a lesser-known guy? I mean, you can't tell me if they had a two goalie rotation that it would be any worse than what we got right now. And you're saving so much money. I just don't see any clear difference with having Jari versus not having him.
I would take a 2 goalie rotation over Jari any day. It works. It's healthy. Keep people fresh.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why. I feel like those guys really made a mistake with that. I give them credit for some of the stuff they try to do, rebuild the bottom 6 and to get Carlson, but. This I don't know. Some just doesn't look right with them. I know they won yesterday against Anaheim, and they finally beat the Sharks at least. Thank God. The Flyers couldn't do it, but least we got them, and they're gonna have to put it together here because I just don't see it. I don't see them being any more than a team that can make the playoffs and maybe win one round, and that's a stretch to me.
Yeah, and one thing that's so odd, because I like looking at the numbers and seeing like really what's going on with the team, and in all of the Penguins' losses, they get so many shots blocked.
Right.
So, for example, versus Dallas, they lost 4-1. 19 of their shots were blocked. And then they beat Colorado, and then they played the Senators, and the Senators blocked 22 of their shots. And then the following game, they had 27 of their shots blocked. So, like, this weird thing of, like, we shoot the puck, but it never gets to the goalie.
Yeah.
It's just odd. Those are these weird little themes I've noticed in all these losses. We just do not get shots to the net.
That is an interesting theme because, you can bet on that kind of stuff, shots on goal and things like that, and that makes a big difference. If you're getting a lot of your shots blocked, that's going to affect the total. And it's weird because the Penguins are a team that you can be critical of. They overpass, and when they do shoot, they're getting them blocked. So it's not a good recipe for success. I hope that I'm wrong, but, man, I just feel like at some point they're going to have to say, we got to get Sully out of here and switch this up. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. You have guys stuck in their ways, the veteran guys, and I don't think Letang's been actually that bad, but I don't know. Something's just off with the team. They scratched Jeff Carter the other night. I guess that's a positive. But
yeah, I saw that. That is positive. That's 2 years too late, but
right.
It took a while to grow some balls.
Hextall's boy. Fuck. We're still paying for that mess. All right, let's switch over to NBA. Any early season thoughts on the association as you take a peek at teams in early season form, but still, I guess you could still start to get a little bit of a gauge of who might be good and who isn't. So who looks interesting to you so far?
Well, the one thing that is the most interesting to me, and I texted you about this, is this in-season tournament.
Right. The courts are beautiful.
The courts are just beyond hideous. I mean, Eastern Michigan-esque colors, whatever Michigan team that is, or Boise State. It's terrible. It's one of the worst decisions they've made. I can't watch the game when there's a blue court.
What is the thought process behind that? I don't get it. To make it look different than the regular night of NBA.
It's unwatchable.
It is. It's hard to watch.
Court.
When I first turned it on briefly, and I didn't even know, it was like I was flipping through something, and I thought that I had stumbled upon something from Europe. Like it was a game from the Europeans or something. I was like, wait a minute, this is an NBA game.
Oh, no,
and then I started to see that all the other courts were like that too, or similar. And my God, I don't know who made that decision, but that's a total fail job.
Like, I don't understand. They played like four games to start the season. Then they were like, all right, it's time for the tournament.
And then they got their own pods and stuff, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be anything worth watching. Probably not, but
I feel like the NBA is pretty good at being new, doing new things.
Oh yeah,
this did not.
Well, Silver's trying to copy like soccer leagues and stuff. They say it's where he got his ideas. So I don't know about. I don't mean on the soccer matches when they play in-season tournaments, they don't paint the field blue. So,
no, it stays green.
Or red.
It stays green.
Yeah.
The ball might change.
Yeah. Right. We'll use a purple ball or gold ball, but that's what they should have done. Use a Globetrotter ball, and then that's how you distinguish it's the in-season tournament. But
right, put chains on the net or something.
Yeah, right. There you go. Play outside.
Anything.
Yeah. I thought it was a little early in the year too to be doing that. Then you got these fucking guys taking the nights off again, and I know they got rules in to stop it. So yeah, come on. They got to stop this. It really is a discredit to the game. But I don't know. I don't see an end in sight. What do you think of Wembanyama so far? He's been okay.
He seems pretty awesome. I don't think people have. It sounds so dumb to say, realized how tall and how big his wingspan actually was, because when Kevin Durant says that he couldn't guard him, that's a big deal.
Right. I saw him next to Durant, and it's like, man, Durant's like one of the longest looking lanky dudes there is, almost 7 feet tall, and he looked tiny compared to Wembanyama.
And he's not even near him when Wembanyama was shooting.
Right.
Too.
Yeah.
His hand was at the bottom of his face. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's. I mean, if the dude stays healthy, and I mean, he's gonna have a hell of a career. I mean, he already plays more games than Anthony Davis does, so that's a good sign.
And Kawhi and James.
Jeez, how about that, James Harden? What do you think about that? What do you think about that foursome? Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, and now bring Harden into the mix.
It's one of the last like super team like things. I'm like, it doesn't work.
It's not gonna work.
It's not going to work. What does James Harden bring to you? And you look at his career and his numbers and everything he's done for a team that would make you say, I want that guy on my team.
Right. And it is funny. I find it amazing that now he's back. Now Westbrook's with him. Durant was with him. And it's like, you three idiots could have just stayed in Oklahoma City and probably won a title. Like they were actually playing their very best then. They seemed like they had their heads on. I mean, I thought that team was going to be something to watch, and then they all get their delusions of grandeur, and they all go their own ways, and now they can't really find a home. I mean, Durant title chases with the Warriors, and it's just, I don't know. No, it's a shame to see him turn out like that.
It is, and it's funny that you'd think he would say, like, hey, send me back to the Thunder right now. They got Chet, they got Jai, they have all these players, but it's like, nah, I want to go play for the LA Clippers.
Right, and the Thunder probably were like, no, we'll pass. We're good.
Yeah,
we're good.
Presti was like, no, I got 85 draft picks in the next 4 years. We're fine.
Yeah, we'll be good. So, no, just a couple of thoughts. Teams, I like the Thunder. Obviously, they got a lot of play. Early in the season, people were kind of on them. I tell you, another team that's impressed me a little bit, and I don't watch a ton of the games, but I at least follow them and just look at the stats. And a team that last year I thought was pretty decent, and they're starting, to me, come into form. Is I think the Orlando Magic are pretty good.
Yeah, I don't hate the Magic at all. I think Ben Caro is pretty damn good, and I also have Cole Anthony's their point guard, I think.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, they're definitely an underrated team, but I need about one more week of the
NBA
to play out so I can see. Then I'll start giving like these shot totals and stuff because people really start letting loose.
Oh yeah.
Once they get comfy. So.
Yeah, and you got some teams who come out kind of slumping. The Heat, the Bucks, like not really playing up to par yet. The Lakers haven't been very good. The Grizzlies got a lot of issues. They may be having a really bad season.
I don't think the Bucks realize that Damian Lillard plays no fucking defense.
Right. I don't know how they didn't know that. I mean, everybody that pays attention knew that. Like, I wasn't gonna solve all your problems. You got Giannis. I mean, they have two really good defenders with Lopez and Giannis. They're gonna have to continue to step their game up because Lillard's not gonna stop anybody. That's never gonna happen.
He just wants to score and shoot from 80 feet away, and
Yeah, I don't.
Shit.
I don't know how that's going to turn out. Sixers have gotten off to a pretty good start. The Nets have been pretty solid. Celtics and Sixers, I think, play tonight. So, interesting stuff in the NBA. Yeah, we'll touch base in a couple of weeks. We can get a better idea of how things are trending and who looks to be legit and who looks to be fraudulent. NFL-wise, Steelers continue to cheat death, man. They keep getting outgained, keep winning these games. This looks like another one this week, although I don't think Green Bay could possibly outgain them. This might be the one week where they actually outgain a team as they host Green Bay. Thoughts on that ball game? It might be a really low-scoring matchup.
I feel like it's going to be a dud of a game. I see Josh Dobbs come in, and he doesn't know the plays. He doesn't know his teammates. Right. He plays incredibly.
Yeah.
And he's throwing the ball around. He's running the ball. And we can't get 300 yards out of Kenny. We can't get more than 2 touchdowns out of Kenny. He's hurt.
Pickens is pissed.
But we win. It's unbelievable. But we somehow keep getting these wins.
Don't know how. I really don't.
I don't either at this point.
Yeah. Anything stand out to you NFL-wise this week?
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad games. Jeez.
Yeah, some terrible games.
But a few good ones too, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, what looks good?
I got 3 anytime touchdowns.
All right.
One is Miles Sanders. He's
okay.
A plus 450.
Okay, I like that.
He's struggled. He should have never left the Eagles.
Right, and they, that's the Thursday night game at the Bears. So very possible.
The Bears stink.
Yeah, yes, they do.
This next one I love. He's one of my favorite players. He didn't come through for me a couple weeks ago. Alec Pierce.
Okay, all right.
20 against the New England Patriots.
I like that.
I don't think J.C. Jackson traveled.
That's over in Germany, yes.
Yeah. Soon all these. We won't even have games in America anymore, Matt.
I know. Wait till the Jags move to London permanently.
It's going to be this is the United States game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my final guy, he came up for me clutch a couple weeks ago. It's Zay Jones.
All
He's
right.
a plus 375 against San Fran, and that's a tough defense, but.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's going to be a good game. San Francisco and Jacksonville both coming off a bye. So, all right, Miles Sanders, Alec Pearson, Zay Jones, anytime touchdown. Like it. I think you'll get 2 out of 3 of those. Let's hope.
I need Pierce, though. I need the Pierce. He fucked me over the couple weeks
ago.
I
know. And he had a couple of opportunities, too. Yep. That's what's frustrating about it. He is. I like him, too. I think that team just needs just a little more consistency. And, I don't think they're that terrible, but we shall see. Be an exciting game out at Deutsche Bank Park in Frankfurt on Sunday morning. At least we'll have that. We got no F1, but we'll have a nice, good early NFL game. So
get some Wiener Schnitzel going.
And let's go. All right. Anything else on your mind, sports wise? Any other?
Yeah, I got two games in college football.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have money line and the spread. Texas Tech is plus 4.5 against Kansas.
Okay.
I think Kansas is fraudulent. Texas Tech's been putting up some points.
Okay.
And then the Georgia Tech, they're plus 490 money line, but they're plus 14 on the spread against Clemson. I think Clemson is an absolute fraudster. They just stormed the field, beating I don't even know what Notre Dame was ranked.
Not really any. I don't know either. 20-something.
To think that you were this big bad Clemson Tigers 2 years ago, nonetheless, maybe.
Right.
We're the national champions, this and that, and you're storming the field against. 15 ranked.
Yeah, I know. It's not a good look. I agree with you. Georgia Tech's been a team that has interested me the last couple of years because they transformed their entire offense from that running stuff like the Naval Academy plays, and now they're actually starting to get all right, and they are dangerous. They've had a couple of nice wins this year, so I agree. I think 14's outrageous for Clemson to be playing with them. So.
My last thing that I wrote on here is Colorado cannot lose to Arizona. They can't.
I like them too. I gave that out as one of my plays. I don't know if they can win, but I know they're going to keep it within 10. I think they do have a chance to win, but we shall see. Coach Prime in a big spot here. And Arizona, all credit to them. They've surprised everybody this year, but now they're starting to, instead of being they're the team out there looking for the hunters. Now they're the hunted, so they're going to be. I think they're in a tough spot here at Colorado. So I'm with you on that one. So good stuff. All right, so that is Texas Tech, Georgia Tech, and Colorado. Sam on this week in college football. All right, buddy. Well, thanks as always for the insight and analysis. Enjoy the rest of the week. Don't get too depressed with the dark early. And we'll see you back on the show in a week.
Yeah, it was good talking. One more shout out to that guy up there.
Key Bryan, your Gold Glover.
Gold Glove third baseman. So
all
I got the bobblehead. I got the shirt. It's Bucks
huge.
Season's coming, man.
All right, here we go, Bucks. Let's go, Bucks. All right, Sam. We'll see you next week. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. See you, Matt.
All right, that's Sammy P. from Upper St. Clair rounding out the show here. Thanks again to him for his analysis and insight, as always, across the sports docket. It's going to do it for us on Bettor's Last Stand. Be sure to check us out. Football Friday show, noon to 3 on Friday on the Watchdog. Gumby's and Jill's Gentlemen's Club, the sponsor of that one. We got Duggar's Saucy Spread week number 12. We got 2 weeks left, week 12 and 13, before we crown a champion in that contest. Kayleen, the leader right now, by 2 games over Jerry. And be sure and go see our friends at IC Cab. Download that IC Cab app. Get your cab arranged today for a nice weekend of beer and sports and whatever else you want to do. Probably head to the Nailer game on Friday, Frosty Friday. We got our Nailing It Down segment starting Friday as well, around the 2 o'clock hour of our Friday show on the Watchdog. So check all that out at the Pine Room Studios to check out all the recent podcasts, Soup and Stuff, the Dancing with the Stars performance by Soup and the guys. They finished third, which is really awesome. Soup did, and Peyton, wonderful job by them. And then Cooley, Jarrett, and Jubb participated in the show as well as auxiliary dancers. I never knew they were dancers, but they were. So kudos to those guys. Great job, everything that they've done for the group, and it was nice to see them represent the Pine Room so very nicely at that wonderful event, raising money for the Augusta Levy Center, which is an awesome cause. So great job to those guys. Check us out, YouTube, at the Pine Room Studios, across all the podcast platforms, and watch all of our Halloween shows, our Jill's Gentlemen's Club show, our Freeland Farm show, our West Virginia Penitentiary show, all great stuff. We were visited by President Reagan, which was really great. he came and saw us up at Jill's Lounge. So, wonderful time. Thanks to all of our sponsors. And we will see you in the Pine Room Studio for Bettor's Last Stand next week as football is starting to get down towards the end. But we got hockey, basketball, and college hoops now. So, plenty more to keep us tided over until the springtime. So we will see you next week on Bettor's Last Stand. That'll be show number 62. So best of luck in your wagers. Be safe and enjoy the beautiful fall weather here in Wheeling. We'll see you next week.